Hey friends, so I'm back on the live and I apologize about the connection issues. This is my third time trying without the Wi-Fi this time, so hopefully the connection will stay strong and we can chat. First of all, I'm sorry I have not popped up live for a few weeks. I got taken along with lots of different projects. But here I am back again today, and I would like to talk to you specifically about looking for a healer who you really feel sees you as a self-healer. And a bit about why that is so important, and also about your boundaries in terms of how much responsibility you'll take on about the relationships that you have, and about how much responsibility that you take on about the work that other people are doing or not doing. This is a common theme through my practice, especially because I'm really interested in the intra realm, or the intra-psychic, so like how we are manifested within the psyche of others, because this plays a very large role in how big we're allowed to grow, or how big we can vision ourselves to grow, and how big we allow ourselves to grow. So coming back to something that's central to how I'm running things over here is that I decided to stay an artist and a shamanic practitioner, and I specifically decided not to become a heilpraktiker, like an alternative practitioner or something like that, because I studied all the work, and I learnt everything I needed to learn, but I felt like the systems of psychology, definitions of different personality types or different personality disorders were always like so limiting and reductive for my taste, and with working with energy and with working with dreams and expansion and empowerment as like a base function of my art and the practice here, I don't, like, of course I think it's good to be aware of what we're kind of constellating ourselves within, because like it's a system where we can map collective psyche. So all of those diagnosis systems are systems where we can map collective psyche. But specifically for people who are dealing with certain types of trauma which have really filtered down through like shame or like bullying, and where it's usually empaths, like super sensitive people who have been taking a lot of responsibility for the feelings of others. Maybe those other people have been like more in a place of not being able to process their own emotions, so then it gets kind of shifted onto the most sensitive. This is the realm which I work in, and for these people I feel like it's really important to take off the responsibility and take off the onus to that person, that they're the ones to blame for how everybody sees them. This is particularly, or the status of their relationships, because I think that a lot of people who reach deep healing, like shamanic healing, they've done a lot of work already, and they've already maybe looked at the psychological levels, and by the time we get into shamanic healing, it's a very deep level, so it's soul level, and at soul level there's not really like the soul to restrict the soul would be like to do exactly the same thing that our whole society is doing to the soul. So if someone comes into the praxis with me, basically we're working on expansion, 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 expansion. And I would never look at somebody who comes in with the perspective that I'm trying to judge them and see which box they would fit into on my piece of paper, which box they would fit into about what diagnosis I should give them, because this is such a limiting way. And also I think that a lot of healers maybe do that out of trying to understand the people who they're asked to heal. But we can be doing it to each other out of fear, and not knowing how to help somebody. So we limit them when we put them in a box, because it's easier for us to kind of classify them as, they're that, or they're that. But like as soon as that classification comes down, it can be very limiting and very hard for someone to get out of that place again. So I do understand how a diagnosis for people who have suffered for many years, like for recognition, can be a really solid frame, and can be a really solid way to get cultural support for dealing with certain things. Like, for example, it's very helpful to know at some point, okay, that is a traumatic experience, and I am 100% it is acceptable to have a response to a traumatic experience. So I think it's very helpful for people to understand and have a frame and a name around things that have happened to them. But if we're meeting people and our first instance with those people is to try and fit them into a box, this is not really about the people themselves. This is more about how we see, how the healer sees. So I think it's important that if anyone is seeking healing, and anyone watching this video on my channel, if you're seeking healing, just to be aware, if you're choosing somebody to make your work who sees you as a self-healing ecosystem in yourself and offers you those tools and continually gives you tools to empower yourself, or if this is someone who's more trying to understand you with like cognitive control. Because I think cognitive control is how we're so used to functioning in this world, because we're not really given the time and space to say that we don't know something. So cognitive control can often be what we're faced with, especially when going to the doctor or going to many aspects of care in our like fast society. Going to any aspect of care in our world that doesn't take into account the soul, or that doesn't take into account the intuition. This definitely became apparent to me where a question came my way when I was in a very like mutable intuitional space. So I didn't really have my ground or have my center fully defined at this moment. And the question was, how is your relationship to this group of people? And it really threw me for a six kind of spinning, because I was thinking, how's my relationship to that group of people? How's my relationship to that group of people? And for my pathway and who I am, it's most commonly that I would receive a question like that and want to take total empathic responsibility about that, and think like how my relationship to another group of people is like my 100% responsibility. And I would usually go straight to the thing of like, there must be something wrong with me if my relationship to that group of people is not solved or is not functional or is not perfect or is not flowing or is not clear. And I feel like after some introspection about this question, I feel like when healers receive new clients or when healers are talking to someone who comes into their praxis, it would be more important, especially if the person is highly sensitive and empathic, highly empathic, it would be important for us to shift our questions rather to discuss relationship from the other side. So how is a group of people, or how is this dynamics relationship to you? Because I think this kind of shares the responsibility a bit, because there's many people who are so deep in healing their trauma, and they're very aware that they have had trauma, and they're aware that they're carrying it, and they're trying to let go of their storylines and trying to evolve their victim storylines, their aggressor storylines, and they're constellating the inner healer within them for this dynamic. And I feel like if we constantly discuss with those people, how is your relationship to this person? How is your relationship to that person? We're forgetting to talk to the people about sharing responsibility throughout relationship. So I feel like it would be better to ask people, what are people projecting onto you? What do you feel like is coming into you from the outside? And what are they taking care of, and what are they not taking care of? And I would like to kind of say for empaths and for highly sensitive people that this is more about what I'm talking about in terms of golden shadow work. Because I think a lot of us, especially women, but I know it happens to everybody, I think it happens to the caretakers of our society as well. I feel like we need to stop putting so much weight on the wrongness onto the people who are already being courageous enough to seek the healing and to come in and say, something's not right, I need support, or something's not right, I need to evolve. Because it's very tiring, for people who have somatic examples of their whatever emotional state that they're carrying. It's tiring for that always to be put on that one person, that it's their issue alone, that they have to deal with alone, and that they're the problem for having that sensitivity, or that they're the sick one. Because so much of what I'm into with research and downloads as well at the moment is really understanding that the most sensitive people in our communities are only channeling something out. They're carrying so much for a lot of other people who are maybe just not there yet to access that. And I realized that constantly in psychotherapy work as well, we can just constantly be going in spirals of taking way too much responsibility about how can we fix this, 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 maybe it's all my fault, maybe it's all my fault, maybe it's all my fault. And it's very tiring for the people who are actually doing the work, I think. And I would love to change this conversation to more, how can I thank myself for what I was carrying? How can I have more discernment about what really is belonging to me and what doesn't belong to me? And have that really acknowledged from the outside as well, from a lot more healers, especially for caretakers and empaths. Because I think that in our psychotherapy work, and in self-work, self-healing work, we take a lot of responsibility about other people, And yes, we want to make sure that we're not like latching onto the hooks constantly and getting triggered constantly on the same things. But this needs to filter through our like caretaking systems. So it would be great if like doctors as well could understand this a little bit. I think that might take some years, but maybe there's some doctors who are understanding that. By now, I am really quite sure that like a lot of the emotions that channel through me are me usually picking up on a lot of other things happening, a lot of other people's processing, and it's interesting that it feels like it comes so strong on that the onus just keeps being put on about what is it that I'm not doing to fix that. So if anyone's watching this who has been through years of healing and maybe understands what I'm talking about, I hope you find somebody who's going to support you in a way which will see you in your full power and hand you tools to be in your full power. Because the real version of healing, like real inner healing, is all self-healing. It's all self-healing. Even if you go to talk to a psychoanalysis for years, of course, what you're going through is held in a co-realm, and it's a mutual situation where you're being witnessed and you're experiencing conversation. But like when we're talking about the energy evolving within yourself, every time you touch into an emotion inside yourself, you're witnessing it and you're transforming it inside energy, inside your body. And your cognition and your system of this and your constellation, like it's all shifting and it's all kind of reorganizing itself. And this is held in place by the other healer, but it's not like it's magically done by the other healer. It's something which is actually self-evident within you. So I think there's a quote that says, all healing is self-healing. And what we're actually doing is allowing ourselves to bloom from within. So just to cap off, there's a big difference between someone who sees us as wounded or broken, as opposed to someone who sees us as a self-healer. The question need not be, how is my relationship to someone else? It can also be, how is someone's relationship to me? And I think if you're in a place of having to answer that question, how is my relationship to the outside world, and it automatically bringing up a feeling within you like you're wrong or you're not right. It could be a reflection of a system which has been telling us we've been broken for so many years. How many years? You're not broken. You're not broken. Every place where it feels broken is a window of opportunity where sprouts are shooting through. And this is why I also think that there's no such thing as wallowing in victimhood. If you need to feel the pain of the contradictions in this space, then feel it. because feeling the pain of the contradictions in all the places that we've been split is what waters the shoots to come through the gaps. So I think that that's basically what I wanted to talk to you about today. And I hope that was understandable.